Hi, my name's Fiona Donovan and I'm the President of the Entertainment, Crew and Sports section of MIA. And I'm here today with the lovely Kelly.
I'm Kelly Wood. I work for MIA and I am the Director of the ECS, aka Crew section of MIA.
That's right. And why are we here today, Kelly?
The offshore film template agreement that covers crew working conditions on feature films that are made in Australia has got new minimum rates in it and has also got pay increases in it. It's quite a new thing for an Australian agreement, so we wanted to make sure that everyone understood how that was going to work, because it's pretty important that you have your heads around it so you can make sure that you get the pay increases.
Yep. So it is kind of complex, so we're going to go right back to the beginning and say this is what used to happen. So previously on these big shows, what would happen is there were 10 areas minimums of wages, and every year they went up, but the minimums were so minimum that nobody actually ever felt the effect of that pay increase. So as every year went by, the minimum went up, and then usually just the runners affected by that or the trade assistant, but everybody else was, you basically went in and negotiated your own rate.
Yeah.
So what happened last year? We sat down with lots of the major studios and went, this is what we actually earn, this is what we actually do, and these are all the roles. So we went from 10 to pretty much everybody. And negotiating with the UPMs and the studios at the time were members of those sections in those departments, grips and art department and electrics and camera. Yeah. Everybody came along to help negotiate the rates.
Yeah. So the thing that it was really important that the template agreement delivered was pay increases to all crew. And that was something that the UPMs and crew and the studios all had agreement on. The studios put on the table 2% annual pay increases, which was great. But we needed to negotiate new minimum rates and a way of making sure that all crew felt the benefit of that pay increase, not just people on the minimums. So we wanted to take you through what was negotiated so that you have got an understanding of it and you can make it work for you.
So I'm just going to repeat something Kelly said. She said that for the next 3 years, the minimum rate is negotiated at this time is going to increase by 2%. So but in 3 years' time, that minimum rate will have increased by 6%. So imagine I'm a third AD and I'm on a job and I'm being paid the minimum, which is $1,700, and 1st of July comes around and I get a pay increase of 2%, which is
$34.
So I get now $1,734 a week.
So that's really straightforward, where that's the example. And for a lot of people, they may be being paid on the minimum rates because they've been negotiated to be as close as possible to what people are really getting paid. Let's say I've got a little bit more experience or a little bit more responsibility on this job and I'm managing to negotiate an additional $100. So my rate is normally $1,800. So under this new system, what that means is that the minimum rate of $1,700 is still there, but I have a personal margin of $100 that sits on top. So what happens then when the 2% pay increase comes through? Well, the minimum rate goes from $17 to $1,734. The personal margin doesn't absorb the pay increase. So that means that my rate of $1,800 is not going to absorb that increase of $34, that it's going to continue to sit on top of the new minimum rate. So my new total rate is going to be $1,834.
So there's a couple of other ways that we need to think about this. So imagine you're on a job and the 1st of July ticks over, and then what happens after the 1st of July when you negotiate a new job? So I'm going to talk about the first scenario. So I started a job, say, in May this year. The 1st of July ticks over. I should just automatically be getting the pay increase. So if
whether you're on the minimum or not.
Whether you're on the minimum or not, you will get the 2% on the minimum rate. So imagine I was on $1,700 and I had a personal margin of $300, then I would get an extra $34 because it's not on the full amount, it's only on the minimum rate. And so, Kelly, what would happen? What happens when I go to negotiate a job in the new year?
Yes. So if, say, I'm starting on a job in August after the pay increase has gone through, that's when I normally would, at the beginning of every job, be going in and negotiating. So my normal rate is, say, $1,800, not $1,700, which is the minimum. You would normally negotiate that consistently across every job. Under this new system, the part that you need to negotiate is actually the personal margin that sits on top of the minimum rate, because the minimum rate's going up every year. The part that needs to be consistent is your personal margin, so that you also get the benefit of the pay increase. So I'm going on to a job. Under the old system, the minimum was 17 and my rate was 18. I have a personal margin of 100. It's August, so the new minimum rate is 17.34. I need to negotiate. Well, my personal margin has always been $100, so my new total rate needs to be 18.34. So that personal margin becomes the critical part to negotiate. You don't want to be going in on every job for the next 3 years negotiating the same rate of $1,800. That way you won't get the pay increase.
So the other thing to remember as well, that these are your rates. This is not any car allowances or toolkits or any additional equipment. This is just your out rate, which then calculates down to your hourly rate.
Yeah.
So it's really important because everyone wants to negotiate in full amounts, so you have to be very clear about what your personal margin is and what all the additionals are that you usually get paid.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, what happens with dailies?
So dailies under the agreement are described as casual employees. So that's somebody who's not a weekly employee, doesn't get things like accrued annual leave or paid sick leave or that sort of thing. You're just on for potentially 1 day. So you get a casual loading of 25%. So whatever the relevant hourly rate is for your position, which is in this agreement, you add 25% to it, and that's your hourly rate, minimum hourly rate. Now, to find out what the minimum daily rate is, you would go to the agreement, look at the 50-hour rate and divide it by 4, which is basically pro rata plus the 25%. So a quarter of the weekly rate is your daily rate. So that means that when the minimum weekly rate goes up by 2%, then the minimum daily rate will also go up by 2%. Now, so theoretically, everyone should still, if you get paid more than the minimum daily rate in the agreement, you will also have a personal margin, and that should also continue to sit above the new increased minimum rate in the agreement. That's something that you probably need to talk to other people in your department about, because I know often the daily rates are set kind of on a collective basis.
So that's a lot to absorb today. So we've covered off how we used to get paid, how the agreement was come to, and how the crew members were involved in discussing that. We've talked about that now for the next 3 years, for the 3 years that the agreement that we signed, everyone is going to get a 2% pay increase based on the minimum rate. We've talked about what personal margin is, and then how our pay increase should not be absorbed in the personal margin, and we've talked about what happens if you're on a job over a pay increase, or what to do when the pay increase happens and then you go into a new job.
If you go to mia.org/offshore, you will find the new minimum rates that have been negotiated. You will also find the minimum rates with the 2% increase from the 1st of July 2019.
There's 2 sets of numbers.
Yes. So for most people, the jobs you have been working on for the past number of years, you probably have a fairly consistent standard rate that you charge. You should be looking at the 2018 rates, because those are the rates that were originally negotiated as being the standard. So if you compare your standard rate to the minimum rate in the 2018 set of rates, you'll see if there's any difference between them, then that is your personal margin. If you have a look at the 2019 rates and put your personal margin on top of what your minimum rate is under the 2019 system, you should see what your new total rate should be.
And the best thing to do is to check out the MIA website, because there's information there. And if you're still confused, you can always ring the MIA helpline and someone very helpful will chat you through it.
If you're a member.
If you're a member.
If you're not a member and you need this kind of advice, the thing that you should really do is join the union. We can only win pay increases and make sure that they go to people as they're intended to when we all stand together right across the industry. It's really, really important to be a member of the union.
Thanks, everybody. If you've got questions, check out the website. Give us a call, but you need to be a member of the union. If you're not a member of the union, this is a very good example of why being part of the union is a really good thing.